Got the audio plugged in. You knew I was gonna do it. You knew I wouldn't forget. I mean, it is just you and I, so this is how it happened last time.
All right. So you see yourself in the frame?
I do.
You got space. You can move in.
I don't want to move in.
All right.
That means I'm gonna be closer to you. I don't.
All the way on the other side.
Keep your distance, pal. Okay.
All right.
You good? We rolling?
It's already rolling here.
Okay. You timing it?
I'm getting there, buddy.
You need me to show you how to work that thing?
Yeah, please.
All right, guys. Welcome back. Coach Darrell from castironworkouts.com, and I got Mikey with me today.
What's going on, everybody?
It's just me and Mike. No Rachel today, so this will probably be our best episode yet. Today is Saturday, September 12th. It's super smoky outside. Super smoky today. Super smoky yesterday. Kind of like the last, 4 or 5 days?
Yeah.
Something like that. I know we had to cancel. You know, we've been doing outdoor classes at the gym here at Whip Fitness and Barbell, and we had one afternoon and one full day that we had to cancel classes, which sucks. And I know for a lot of people, it's shitty situations right now, man. A lot of nasty stuff going on. You know, smoke in the air. A lot of people struggling. Kind of sucks, man. Kind of sucks.
Yeah, it was bugging me a lot. Like, our windows are really old, so I think it comes in the house,
Creeping in, yeah.
And then I could feel it, in my chest. You think nothing's going on. It's super subtle. And then I started feeling it in my stomach, too. I was talking to Rachel about it, and same thing with her. It's like, once that happens, it's just uncomfortable.
Right. And
it just bugs me. You can't leave.
Yeah, I was going to say, you
turn it off.
can't get away from it, right? I know. And that's, I can't remember what day it was now. I got my day.
Wednesday was the red day.
Was that the day? Maybe it was the day before that. So, I'm coaching 4 classes a day right now outdoors, and I think it was the day before I canceled classes. So yeah, probably Tuesday, and I coached the morning classes. I had the door open during my workout, and I could feel like a little headache coming on. I felt super congested, right? And I'm like, man, what the fuck's going on? Like, and then I'm like, well, dummy, you've been breathing smoke, all day long. And it sucks, man. It sucks, and I know today, like, I haven't, the last couple days, 2 or 3 days, I haven't been able to run, right?
Yeah,
so for me, yeah, that like eats at me, right? I'm like, what the so I'm getting all pissed off. This morning, Rachel walked in to Angry Darrell warming. I just had the music blaring, just listening to metal,
getting
like
down, yeah.
And it was just like getting my head ready just to destroy my legs. I'm like, well, if you can't run, your legs are not going to be able to move.
You don't need these right now.
Yeah, no, I'm like, yeah, exactly. That was it. It's like these things aren't getting used running, so like you're going to bury yourself. But it was the best squat and heavy front squat, clean lunge day I've had in over a year.
Wow, really?
Oh yeah, and it just the heaviest for Rachel and I both. Like Rachel walked in all sleepy looking. I'm like, you gonna wake up, sucker? So it was a good day, man. I mean, it was a good workout. I know that we had one class this morning, and they came in, and I was trying to transition out of like that super aggressive, angry workout mode, and everybody's like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" I'm like, "Shut up. Just don't talk to me. Shut up. Leave me alone for a minute."
Get on the bench.
Yeah, I'm like, you guys are going to move weight right now. Just pissed, and it's good. It was good. I definitely needed that. Like I say, for me, not being able to run, it's not good.
Well, I just did. Last weekend we had that heat wave.
Yeah.
And
so tell the people about your life decisions, you dum dum.
My body's starting to feel better, for running. So, and I've been, I grab a mile or two here after a workout, and I'm, all right, that feels good. So last weekend, it was super hot. Look at my phone; it says 90 degrees. I'm like, okay, I can run in that. That's fine. The Lake Chabot over by where I live. A lot of trees, so it's fine, doable. So I go and do it. I can't run the whole time. So I'm like, man, like my head. That when the heat gets to your head, it didn't quite do that, but it was just enough to where my body's like, at points where I got to stop.
Yeah, it's no thank you.
So I'm dripping when I get home. Then, I stop my little timer on my phone, and I go and look at the weather again. 106. Unhealthy air conditions. And I'm like, all right, 6 miles. And I ran in that. And
it took you 3 hours and 45 minutes.
So I was in the heat for that long. I'm just cooking. But yeah, that frustrated me because I finally got that's like if I can, that's like my base distance, and it just feels good. About an hour of a run, it feels good, and get back, move on. And my body, my lower back, my hips haven't been hurting from it, and to me, that's great. That's all I need, and I could build up from that comfortably. But this air has been pissing me off too because I can't do it. My body's finally ready. I got it,
Right. It's primed and ready to go, and the air's like, nah.
And I can't do it. And I'm just like, oh my God. Because I know that I could easily, a couple weeks could go by, I'm not running, and then I'll be back a little bit.
Right.
Because of where I'm at right now,
Right. And I know, dude, it's frustrating as all get out, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So that sucks.
And here's one for you. You talked about like the heat and stuff, and I had one day like that. I think it was last week. I told you it was the day that we podcasted with Ramon.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I didn't get to. Let me rephrase that. I was not able to run that morning when I normally do because I decided to sleep a little bit later than normal. Right. And because I just never do that. So I slept until like 6.
Was that you said
I slept till like 6 or like 6:15. And that was the first time I'd slept that late. I think I did that once or twice during the whole lockdown. And I woke up, I was super confused. I'm like, what day is it? I don't know what? Like just lost, right? Like just a ton of sleep, which was great. I needed it. So that day after we podcasted, I'm like, you know what? I got to get out and get a few miles in, which was, I think we left the gym at 10:30, 10:45, maybe 11, which is way later in the day. It was warm out. And I think
especially out here.
Yeah, and I got done running that day, and it was 91 or 92. And for Darrell, that's really hot. Like, I do not run if it's super hot, right? I just, I get hot fast, and I prefer not to. Now, I did it, but it sucked. And my thought that day was, because we had the fires going on and stuff then. I'm like, okay, I'm super hot right now, and I'm just out running this. I'm like, and you start thinking, I'm like, these firefighters have, how many pounds worth of gear on, head to toe. They got masks, whatever, and they're standing next to flames in this 100+ degree heat.
Standing on heat because the ground is from.
I'm like, man, you guys like I said, like I have mad respect for those dudes as it is, but like you start thinking of it like that, I'm like, holy crap. These dudes are savages, man. And, I appreciate everything that these guys do. And so,
absolutely.
Yeah, if Maddie or any of my friends who are firefighters are out there, like you guys are awesome. You guys are badass, and takes a super special person to do what y'all are doing. So thank you, and I know you guys got your work cut out for you because this stuff is everywhere. So yeah. So, we're talking a little bit about working out today, and, this episode, what we were kind of going to focus on a little bit is like programming, right? And like what I mean by programming is like, number one, like how I program workouts, set up workouts for cast iron workouts, kind of what I do and how it kind of relates. And it's kind of similar to what we do here at the gym. I had a few people kind of ask me about like my own personal programming of workouts and like what I do, and, just kind of what I see as quality programming. Programming workouts, it's always the part that I see that coaches or trainers, they want to do, right? Because they're like, yeah, I want it. That's the creation side, right? You're creating. It's being creative, and you're putting thought into the sets, the reps, the breaks, and how that stuff's all gonna flow, not just for that day, but for the week, the month, the year, right? And that's it depends on like what you're training for, but a lot of times like your programming like is cycled out for a year or 4 years, or like on a huge cycle, depending on like what level you're lifting at and training at, and so on. Like for on the smaller level, like for the stuff that I do for cast iron workouts, and like here at the gym, like for our group fitness classes, like our general fitness, our stuff it's all inclusive. What I mean by that is like we incorporate a lot of different movements, right? We do a lot of different things. We move our body in a lot of different ways, but it's not just throwing names into a hat and pulling out random shit, right? There's more thought that goes into it than that. I'm a big believer in lifting weights, right? And like you guys that are members of Cast Iron Workouts, you guys that are members of Wit Fitness and Barbell, if you've trained with me in the past, people know that. Like they get it. That I think to get the biggest bang for your buck or return on investment in training, you need to lift. You need to have resistance training, because there's so many benefits from lifting. So, what I kind of do like is I believe everybody needs to squat, they need to press, they need to pull. When I say press, I'm talking overhead and press forward. I'm always going to throw a bench press in there because that's my jam. And I believe that everybody needs to pick something up off the ground. And I think you should do that at least once a week, right? Now, depending on the intensity that you're lifting at, you could do it multiple times per week, right? And depending at, like what your training background is, you could do it maybe a little bit heavier and a little bit more intense more than once a week. But for most people, usually like once a week, we want to do those big movements, right? Big compound movements. Again, bang for your buck. And what's the number one? What is it? It's a squat, right? Head to toe, you want to work your body, you're going to squat. And for a lot of people, squatting's hard, right? And it's hard because it's a difficult exercise to master, number one. And you would think like squatting, you're sitting down and standing up, right? Like how hard can it be? And then you start breaking down a squat, especially when you start getting weight in people's hands, putting it on their back and on their front, right? Or, if you get to that point where you can do like overhead positioning, that's really tough, and that's tough to get people into. But I always try and focus on the back squat and the front squat. And, that's always number one. And I was just telling one of our new members the other day, like squats, and she goes, wow, man, we squat a lot, or I think that's kind of how she put it. And I said, well, squats, I always think of like in any type of training program are your base. Like if I have a pyramid, squats are my base, right? Squats are going to get you stronger and more fit than any other movement, right? And squats, like especially back squats, they'll make you a man. You know what I mean? And you've done heavier squats with me now, like over the last, however many years that, you've been training on and off. And, we got to squat the other day, and we had some higher reps going on, but we were pushing intensity a little bit, right? And you start to get to that point where, your lungs are burning because it's a longer set of squats. You're standing there, your legs are shaking, and you can't go anywhere. Where are you going to go? You got that bar pressing down on you, right? Where are you going to go? You can't run. You can't hide. It's not a deadlift. I can't let go of it.
Right.
And it's even different than a front squat. A front squat's easy to bail on, right? Just roll forward and let it go. It's hard to bail on a back squat. Now, if you're in a squat cage or something that's got catch bars, it's a little bit easier to ride it to the bottom and let it sit on the bars and climb out from underneath. But
on the back, I think I hear you coach us. We're leaning forward when it gets tough.
Yeah.
So then you got all that weight, you're going forward, and this thing's on your neck at that point. You got to go up.
Yeah.
Like you said,
Oh yeah, and like I said, it's gonna test your mettle. You know what I mean? You're gonna find out how tough you really are. It's you got the weight of it just pressing down, and Jim Wendler had a thing. talking about squats being a man maker, and how you have a heavy ass weight compressing your lungs, you got nowhere to go except for up, right? Like that is gonna test you. It's gonna test you, And like I said, I've done different squat programs through the years, and all sorts of various rep ranges, and I think one of the hardest things, like I talked about the small off squat program, but one of the hardest things, and I'll program this in for workouts here at the gym, is finishing with a set of 12 to 20 as an AMRAP, and at a moderate weight, like a decent weight, like that is gonna test you and see how tough you are, right? That's intestinal fortitude. Like you do a set of 20 rep squats, like back squats at a moderate load, that's going to take you a minute to get through, a minute and a half to get through, right? Because you're going to stand up, you're going to get winded. You don't think squats are cardio? Do a set of 20 with, if you work percentages, 50 to 60% of your 1 rep max, you tell me that's not cardio, like because that'll take it out of you, right? And I know I'm going off on a tangent here on squats, but it's just one of those things. Like you want to get conditioned, squat.
Yeah.
You want to get strong, squat. You want to get better at sports, squat. You want to run faster, squat. Like
I was going to say, I could relate to that because, again, my concern with running, or what I feel like has been holding me back, is I can't hit my stride, my hips, my lower back. So now that those are okay, what I noticed is needs work, and it's not pain. It's just a matter of, okay, you start getting in tune with your body. What would help my core.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, if that was better, I'd be moving a lot better. So that's exactly what I feel, when I'm dipping down.
Yeah.
That balance and
you should, right?
Yeah.
Because you think about like a squat, and especially like, okay, we get into variations of squats, right? Like you talk about like front squats. And I was telling somebody this within the last couple of days, we were talking about squatting, and like for me, I got to back squat and front squat heavy today, which is awesome. Tomorrow, my abs are going to be blown out, like to the point where I'm going to feel like I did 200 sit-ups, right? It's because the bracing on a front squat is so much different, right? Where I have that heavy weight on my front, and I'm driving my elbows up, and I have to hold that breath in tight, and I'm getting all, but like honestly, like that just tears your abs apart, right? Your abs have to work so hard in a front squat. Right, back squat, they're still working to stabilize, but you start getting into some heavy fronts.
Yeah.
Whoo, holy smokes! Like, and that's the thing too. Like Rachel and I were talking about it. She's funny. She was funny because she's the same way. Like her abs get blown out from heavy front squats, and she goes, when I do them, I'm having to brace so hard. She goes, I get sick to my stomach, like during heavy sets. Right, so the benefits of squats are absolutely ridiculous, right? Like you're working everything, right? And there's been proven studies that have shown like heavy squatting actually helps get your upper body stronger too.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's just overall body strength, right? Because you are you're getting so much muscle recruitment from all areas of the body. You're working your core, right? It's a huge release of hormones too. And anyways, squats are awesome.
Yeah.
Right? Squats should always be that number one. So you guys that follow my program on cast iron workouts,
there's a lot I noticed.
Yeah, we squat a couple days a week. Now some days it may only be one day, right? And that's usually when the intensity is turned up on the squat, and it's a heavier squat day. But yeah, there's a lot of squatting, right? There's a lot of squatting, so if you are doing workouts at home on your own, and you're not following our program and whatever, like squats should always be in there. It should always be number one. And on a talking about like physical benefits of squats, I always say squats are a mental benefit too, because it's going to test you. But you think of it this way: even doing body weight air squats are fantastic. If you're doing them correctly. If not, you find our squat videos. Couple squat videos on YouTube, that show demos, whatever, and they're basic. If you need more tips, let me know. But you're going to sit down and stand up for the rest of your life. Do it well.
That's what I felt before I came back. Gradually, it was harder to, and I didn't know until I got better after a month here
Right.
and felt the difference. But yeah, walking around, stood out to me, and getting out of the car and stuff like that is crazy. Like,
Well, you forget, right? And it's little things. You forget how good normal feels, right? And that's something for a lot of people is like, oh, man, they think either it's age or it's just my body breaking down.
Old.
Oh, yeah, I'm getting old. It's got to be this way.
After that, I told myself, no.
Bullshit, man. Like, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. But I am one, especially the older I get, right? You know, I'm 43 now. The older I get in training, I believe that there's so many just bullshit myths that people buy into that, oh, I'm this age, so it's got to be harder for me.
Right.
Fuck that, man. Like, I am not about that. Like, at 43 now, I'm in better shape, like, physically, mentally, like, stamina than I have been in my entire life. Now, I may have been stronger when I was younger, but I was 50 pounds heavier. You know, 50, maybe even 60 pounds heavier. So, yeah, I could bench press more weight, but I was a slob. You know what I mean? So, relation to body weight, you know, just like feeling like, don't let anybody tell you like that's the way it's supposed to be, right? That's bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about, oh man, what was I going to say? All right. I think I haven't hit the best shape of my life.
No.
So I know that I like being fast, like for a mile, you know? Now, at my weight, there's no way I could have hit, like I got, 7:33 the other, whatever it was, last week or something. I don't think I could have put on a vest, you know, 4 years ago to make whatever weight I am now and been able to get that time. You know what I'm saying?
No, hell no.
And I'm like, all right, if I could do that and not feel great right now, it tells me there's something in me that's already getting better.
Hey, bro.
So if I could tighten up,
Goggins.
you know what I'm saying?
You got the Goggins, bro, the 40% rule, right?
Yeah, and well, it doesn't feel as good as it used to, but if I'm going faster at a higher body weight that I am now, man, if I, can get my shit together.
Yeah, like, it's okay. You can say shit, Mike.
I know. I'm just habit. I'm just like, damn, I haven't even scratched the surface, and I mean that. Like, I know that at my best, maybe I've gotten like, it was in here. I think AJ messed up on the time, but it said 5:48 on the mile. So I don't think that
never
happened.
trust AJ, bro.
But I think I could definitely hit a 6:30 in the past.
Yeah.
So I think I could get there again and maybe even do better and be stronger. And I really like my strength that's been coming along.
Yeah.
That's coming quick.
And that's exactly what I was saying, right? Like with programming, and you're getting stronger, so everything else is getting better. Right? And that's always the number one for me. That's why I always I'm going to put resistance training above everything else. If I get stronger, and there's definitely a breaking point. Like if I get stronger, everything else I do is going to get easier or better. My athletic performance is going to get better. My speed to a certain point is going to get better. Now, if all I do is fucking squat and deadlift and I have these huge legs, like I'm probably not going to run real fast. Right? But I've seen guys, this is no joke, that train in the off season for football. And they don't do any work on the field. They're not doing sprints. They're not doing, any of that stuff. And they lift all off season until, a month before season. Then they kind of start doing some conditioning. And even then, it's not true sprint work. It's just to get them back in shape. And they get into fall camp and they get timed in a 40 compared to like when they started their off season, and they're fucking 0.2 of a second faster in a 40. Now, 0.2 of a second to somebody who doesn't understand a 40 is going to go, oh, 0.2 of a second, what's that? That's fucking huge in a 40-yard dash. And that's just from lifting and getting stronger, right? And that's where I think a lot of people get too cute, and this is another one I can go on a rant with, but people get too cute with their programming, right? It's like, oh my God, I got to do all this shit and throw it, the whole fucking ball of wax at it, and it's like, you don't. You get really good at those basics. You get really good, and it's funny because I put a post up the other day, keep it simple, stupid, right? And get really good at the basics and do all that shit well, and it's really funny how all the other stuff gets easier. Right? If I can do all that little stuff, or all the basic stuff that make up that 99%, that 1% is going to be fucking cake. Right? Don't look to fucking go to a BOSU ball or some physio ball and do all this balance fucking lunges while I'm doing an overhead press. Get good at squatting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get good at that stuff.
Get your base.
And it's going to transition. It's going to make you faster. Right? You're going to go out and you're going to run that mile, and you're going to go, holy shit, man, I feel pretty good. Like where before you would finish that mile, you're breathing hard and your legs feel like you're going to give out. Now you're just breathing hard, right? So now you're working on conditioning a little bit. So, yeah, man, and I can appreciate that. So, yeah, talking about like training, my own training and getting stronger and feeling faster and all that. So, like, you know, I always record time on my runs, right? And I haven't ran a mile for time in probably almost a year. And at that time, I say PR'd it. You know, I don't know if this would be a true PR or not, but I ran it like a 6:46, right? Which, I thought, okay, at the time, 42. Like, I hadn't timed a mile in forever. I'm like, cool, I broke 7, like, felt pretty good. So last week, in the beginning of the week, I was like, man, I'm going to push a mile and see what I can do. And I hit 6:30 on the nose.
Nice.
Right? And that's, like, I can't remember in my life running a 6:30 mile. Right? And so, like, part of that is, you know, again, it comes down to programming, right? Am I just focusing on running? No, I focus on strength. I focus on my runs, whatever it is. And I know, like, for me personally, kind of like you were saying, like, when I focus on my strength, my runs get better to a point, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, like, if I hammer my legs 2 or 3 days a week, like, my running sucks, right? So it's definitely a balance for sure. But when the strength is in there, because I've had times where I've gone through just cycles of, okay, well, I'm just running more and I sacrifice some of that strength, and then all of a sudden I kind of tap out on my runs. My legs get tired, right? Whereas, you know, like right now I'm running and I'm consistent with my strength training on my lower half. Like, I've got to hit 11, 12 miles before my legs wear out.
Nice.
Yeah. And it, you know, before it was like, you know, hit that 6, 7, and then my legs start to die a little, start to get heavy on me. Right. So it's definitely one of those things, like there needs to be a balance there for sure. But yeah, you know, always go to the strength. Always go to the strength training for your legs. Right. And I know, like I said, I know we kind of got off track and we got going on.
But it connects to programming, like you mentioned,
for sure.
Foundation, because there's a.
Go ahead.
Just real quick, you know, I'll say it again. There's a ton I notice of squat movements and the goblet squats, you know, in cast iron, you know, because I get to see those, and yeah, that's it. You know.
Yeah, and you know, I you know, as far as like how, you know, talking like how I program things, you know, like I said, you're gonna squat, and you're gonna squat at least 1 day a week, and I kind of, you know, people kind of start to figure it out after a while. Is I kind of rotate intensity, right? I'm a heavy squat person. I love to squat from like 1 to 3 reps. Like that's for like, if you're going to give me my choice, that's my favorite thing to do. Like when I get over 6 reps, that's where my legs get blown out in squats. When I'm talking where you're lifting with a moderate to moderate heavy type of weight, right? Now, like I said, if you give me my choice, I'm going to go 1 to 3. But I believe that you need to have that variance at different levels to make your legs and make your body truly strong. And I kind of do that with all of our big lifts, right?
Kind of have the power, but then be able to have the stamina and endurance on the other side.
Exactly. When you're training for GPP, general physical preparedness, right? Where I'm training for, you know, like functionally, like, you know, where I'm not training for a competition or trying to, you know, increase my max by 50 pounds or whatever it is, where I'm just trying to get fit and be as strong and healthy and, you know, have as much stamina as possible. I think that varying intensity is important, right? So some weeks, yeah, fall in that 1 to 3 rep range. The next week probably should be a light week where you're going 10 to 12 reps, right? And the next week after that, probably going to be like a medium type of weight. And then I'm a fan of deloads too. Now, when we deload, and you've seen this through training at the gym, and you know you've seen it through the programming that I do for cast iron, is a deload necessarily doesn't mean that I'm not going to do that movement that week, but it's going to be lighter than normal.
What is a deload?
Deload means I'm going to take back the intensity. I'm going to increase my reps, drop my weights down. Okay. So it's going to be lighter weight. Right? It could even just be some body weight squats, right? For a week to give your legs a little bit of time to recover to the way you've been thrashing them. And I'm just using squats as an example, but I do that with most of the big lifts. You know, we do it with bench press too. We do it with overhead press. We do it with deadlifts. Like you'll have weeks where, you know, you look at the programming for you know, like I said, gym here and for cast iron, and it's same thing with deadlifts. You know, we just came through that last heavy deadlift.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right? Like for you guys here at the gym, we had you guys doing 1 or 2 reps. Right? Now, it wasn't a max.
Right.
We didn't call it a max. Like I said, I wanted you guys to leave a little bit in the tank, right? But it was heavy. So next time you deadlift, it's not going to be that way, right? I'm not going to go, all right, let's load that bar up again. We're going to throttle back a little bit, let those legs recover, get you in a good position for higher reps, you know, figure out your balance there and all sorts. And you're going to see more of a steady progression that week instead of just hammering one rep range over and over and over again and trying to
wipe out.
Yeah, and it's hard and you know, it's hard to hit that kind of intensity all the time. It is. And I've seen people, you get burnt out, right? You get burnt out, especially when you're doing it with all your lifts and they're all synced up. Like, all right, this week we're going to go heavy, heavy, heavy on everything. Right? And it's like by the end of the week, you got people walking around that are just like zombies.
You can't do anything.
Yeah, and it's not just the physical, it's the mental, right? Because it drains your CNS. Like today, like I said, I had the most intense leg day I've had in a year. And right now I'm fired up. I feel great. As the day goes, I'm going to fucking crash. I'm going to crash. And tomorrow, I know going into tomorrow that my day needs to be super throttled back, right? If I pushed that type of intensity today, tomorrow I need to know going in, okay, today's just going to be about movement. Hopefully air quality is decent enough to go in. Honestly, for me, like it's a short run, go out and do 2 miles, just super slow, just to get some blood flow, and then do some push-ups, maybe some body weight squats, get a little bit more blood flow in the legs. But like, it's got to be super easy on the intensity. Because I blow up a couple days in a row like that of, you know, my central nervous system, and I'm fucking fried. You know, I know for me personally. Now, at a younger age, you could push that a little bit harder, and I used to. You know, it was like every day I go in the gym, and I'm fucking banging heads, and, you know, and you're going. And it's like, I'm going to go 100 miles an hour, and I'm, you know, and everything needs to be done as heavy as fucking possible. You know, and it took me a long time and a lot of injuries to figure out that probably wasn't the best way to approach things. You know, and it took a long time to figure out programming. And, you know, I kind of said that earlier is, all coaches, and especially young coaches, are like, oh man, I want to program workouts. And it's like, cool, and you should, but test it all on yourself, right? And that's something that I've told every coach that's ever coached for me, right? And it's something that I think is huge. And I tell people this that I train here, and if you guys have never heard this, if you're a member of Cast Iron Workouts, there is never a workout you are going to do that I haven't done myself. There never. I'm not just going to throw shit on the board and go, hey, best of luck. You know what I mean?
Go get it.
And for like from a coaching and programming standpoint, that makes you a better programmer because you know where the stimulus is in that workout, where things are going to hit. It's just like you, right? Like you know where the bass is going to drop when you're fucking mixing shit, right? As a DJ, you know what that's going to feel like, what it's going to sound like, you know what I mean? For somebody who's into the music, and it's the same thing with that workout. I want people to. I want to know what those people are going through.
Right.
Where does this get hard? Where do I need to crank my intensity? Where do I need to focus? Where do I even on like let's talk about one set of one lift. Where do I need to focus on that bracing more? Where do I need to focus on that breathing more? Where in these? Because you hear me explain it at the gym. You hear me talk about it a little bit, like when I'm voicing over stuff for cast iron workouts is, hey, this is your third round here. This is where the kind of round of death you need to focus. And then once you hit the fourth round, we're going to increase your intensity a little bit. Your breathing is going to be a little bit harder here. And that fifth round, you're going to fucking put everything on the table. It's going to be really hard. You're going to tap out at this point. I want to know exactly what those people are going through and what they should be fucking pushing through. That's what makes you a good programmer. But so many fucking coaches just think the programming thing, it's creative, so it's fun, and it's cool to take the pen to paper.
Or
right?
how to start. Like you mentioned, you know, what's going to happen in the fifth round. You'll recommend and encourage, you know, pace it out the first round or something like that. I need that because I love to just, you know, sprint.
Yeah, for those of you guys who don't know, Mike is the baby rattlesnake that can't control his venom. Like, I'll turn these guys loose on like 5 rounds of something, and Mike is like fucking going 100 miles an hour. I'm like, bro, breathe, like slow down.
And
like
the thing about that is that's my one time where it's gonna feel good. It's like, all right, I got about one round of feeling good, especially if it's running on the first movement, and I just like it. So for me, sometimes it's worth it, but but I like it honestly because that's when I will be able to get the stride because I know it's gonna burn out at least now. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
But yeah, that helps. It's like, hey, pace it out your first round, and I don't do it on purpose anymore. Ever since that one day, but my stride is there, at first, so it seems like it's still, but I'm not. I know I'm not burning out like I did, at first. But yeah, that's helpful when it's like, all right, get into it the first round, and then the fourth and fifth rounds come, and you're like, hurry up, bitch. And I'm like, all right, I gotta hurry up.
Okay. Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. And
so,
it's,
you know what we're experiencing.
Yeah, I know what you're going through.
Exactly.
I know what you're going through. And that, like I said, man, that's what makes, to me, that's what makes a trainer or a coach a good trainer or coach when it comes to programming. Excuse me. And that's one of those things, like, it takes a long time for coaches to realize that, right? And like I said, it's they want to be creative. They want to put shit down on paper. And, I've seen a lot of coaches, a lot of strength coaches, a lot of guys go different ways. And it's like, well, they think the intensity always needs to be cranked up. And they think that, like, well, if they're not throwing up, they didn't work hard enough type of thing, right? And that's another thing. Like, there's got to be an ebb and flow to your training, right? There's, like I said, there's got to be the intense days. There's got to be the down days. There's got to be the stuff that kind of flows. And that's hard to figure out, right? And like I said, I can put a workout down on paper and just do one workout. And then I'm going to go, okay, this is what these guys are going to do on Monday. But I need to know what they're going to feel like after that so I know what they're going to do on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday. And then the following, like it goes, it's not just those first couple days. It's days to weeks to months. Like, you've got to be conscious of that, right? So I think that the flow of training is something that's missed a lot of times, right? People think of one workout as one workout. Like, I'm talking from the coaching and programming side of things. They think of one workout being that one and only, and they're not thinking about the next day or what you did the day before or 2 days before or 4 days before or 6 days out. It's like there's no true thought to it. And that's the part that, like I said, it takes a lot of thought. I can't remember whose line it is, but like the programming needs to be brutally elegant. Right? And it takes a lot of thought, and you want it to be hard, but it needs to have a flow to it.
Needs that finesse to
for
make
sure
everything's getting dialed in.
For sure.
I have a question. I don't know if you'll know, but let's say I'll use CrossFit as an example.
Yep.
A bigger gym.
Yeah, we were a CrossFit. My gym was a CrossFit gym for 3 years. For those of you guys that don't know it, and a lot of people will still say, "Hey, yeah, you're a CrossFit." No, we're not a CrossFit. We are not. Go ahead.
Like, take one that's maybe 4 times the size of this.
Yep.
Does one person program that every day, or if there's multiple coaches, do they spread that around, and do they?
So usually,
on average,
usually you have one person in charge of your programming. Right now, it could be within your gym. A lot of CrossFit gyms outsource their programming, so they'll go through different companies. Like I can't even think of some of the names right now, but there's different
they're going
companies.
To a source and
they program their workouts. Now, for me, and this is where I differ a little bit from a lot of, I guess, CrossFits. Number one is I believe more, I guess, in a steady base of strength training and programming. Like CrossFit, definitely they lift, and there's, like I said, I'm not knocking CrossFit in any way, so if my CrossFit friends don't attack me on this. I think that having a strong base of lifting needs to be number one. Now, and I think it needs to be a consistent base of lifting where you're doing, like I said, a lot of the big complex lifts. With CrossFit and their programming for a lot of times is it's kind of scattered, and you're not getting a lot of repeat stuff, right? And that's where you need to know your members. So these guys that are outsourcing, I know every single person that comes into this gym. I know their capabilities. I know what they're trying to do. I know what the goal is for most of these people. So if I'm sending this out to somebody that lives in Nebraska who doesn't know my members, I can tell them, but if they're not physically seeing, I find it hard to believe that they know how to program for my people. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and that's even like with cast iron workouts, right? Like the members that we have so far, like we're growing, right? And we're getting more members. The members we have so far, I know who those people are. So like, you talk about like an avatar in business, right? I know our avatar because I know all these people, right? I know what their goals are. I know what they're trying to accomplish. So for me, it's been good because I can go, okay, I can look at who these people are. I can incorporate what they're trying to do into the programming, no matter who they are. Now, the CrossFit argument would be is like, well, everybody that you program for, you should be able to modify and scale to meet their needs. And I firmly agree with that. But I think that if you know who those people are, there doesn't need to be as much scaling and modifying. Does that make sense?
Right. You could give them something that they're going to get maximum results back. Is that what you mean?
For sure. Now, does that mean that I'm not going to program certain things that I think could help these people progress or are harder or too easy or whatever? No, because, especially like with cast iron workouts is I give, and we do it here at the gym firsthand, but there's always ways to make things harder and easier, right? And that's that modification and scaling option. And I'm a firm believer in that, just like CrossFit is, So there's times like, I think we had one the other day for cast iron workouts, and they probably haven't seen that workout yet. I think it's coming up towards the end of the month, one that we filmed. And the scaling options were all to make the workout harder. There's one with the squat jumps. So if you guys have one with squat jumps coming, you know what I'm talking about. But it was one of those that, like, okay, here's something hard or something that, you should be able to do. But if you want to crank the heat up, let's crank the heat up, right? So that's something like when I'm programming workouts, I always want to have a little bit of that in my back pocket of, okay, if I need to modify, I can always modify to make things easier, but I can always crank it up on you too.
Step it up, yeah.
Yeah. It's just like Jason Reynosa, right? And Jay, if you watch this, cool. A lot of times, like we're doing pike push-ups and things like that, to help people, doing the overhead press. And like for Jay, he's one of our few that can just crank out handstand push-ups. So like when people are doing pikes, I'm like, hey, Jay, kick up into a handstand and do some handstand push-ups. Jay's a former gymnast, for those of you who don't know. So he's used to being upside down. But yeah, we can always turn up the heat. And it's just like even Big Cody, right? Like Cody's an Olympic weightlifter. Like we've got Cody doing like handstand push-ups now to make things a little bit more difficult. Like, and they crush him. But it's like being able to crank that intensity up on people. So yeah, what were we talking about?
Well, I was, because like we were talking about CrossFit, but you answered it with the outsourcing. I was just curious if there are gyms like that. It doesn't have to be CrossFit, but just an environment where you might have multiple coaches. Okay, this person works Monday, so then they program Monday.
Yeah, usually
general,
it's one person.
Okay.
Yeah, because you don't want one person to program something and then have it to conflict with what somebody else is doing. Now, like for me,
I'm just saying, like, of course it'll be on the board, so they'll be like, okay, so and so did this, I'll do this today. But yeah, it definitely makes sense. I was just wondering if it happened, but it sounds like probably
and
not.
like for me, like I program our workouts right now. There's times though where like I'll talk. Like I'm going to ask Rachel's advice, like, hey, what's some stuff that you think that we're missing? What's some holes, right, in the programming? Like, are there things that we're not hitting that we should be? Even like, like I would talk to AJ when AJ was, hey man, what are some things, like AJ's super CrossFit, like, like AJ loves like the Metcon AMRAP and he loves like all the big movements. So a lot of times like having somebody that thinks a little bit different than me, hadn't thrown stuff like that out there was always good. I'd usually tell AJ no just because I like to tell him no. But even, like Chris, like when I had Coach Chris, talking through stuff with Chris, talking through stuff with Mason, who's another one of my coaches who have different backgrounds. Like Mason's a power lifter, right? Like that's his home. That's his natural. But having that perspective is always good, right? Especially when you're talking about like group fitness and like, group fitness, but like functional fitness, where we're talking about general physical preparedness, like I'm talking about, is I want to make people as strong and as fit and healthy as possible in as many ways as possible, right? So, yeah, the programming's tough, dude. It's tough, and it takes a long time to figure out. Doing the like I said, squats. Always start with squats. The big compound list, the presses, the pulls, picking stuff up and setting it down. That's another one. Like deadlifting, and deadlifts. Everybody thinks a deadlift is this big burly dude who's got 600 pounds on the bar and they're picking it up one time and setting it down. Where yeah, I want you to deadlift heavy like we just did, but there's a lot of times where we deadlift, but you're not really thinking about deadlifting. Like you're doing dumbbell deadlifts at a light weight. You're picking up a slam ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you're doing like ground overheads. You know, you're doing dumbbell snatches even. You know, a lot of times we're loading the hamstrings and we're working that hip extension. That is something that we want to be able to do and figure out movement patterns well. Because again, you know, we talked about sitting down and standing up for the rest of your life with squats. You're going to pick stuff up from the floor for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's a lot of coordination.
Yeah.
Especially when you push you get better at it and the weights go up.
And, you know, I was teaching deadlifts to our new members the other day. You know, we're doing our deadlifts outside and we're talking through about like conventional deadlifts and sumo deadlifts and which ones, you know, felt more natural to them and whatever. And I was saying it to them. I'm like, look, you got grocery bags to carry for the rest of your life. You know, you got kids or grandkids you're going to want to pick up off the ground. You know, you got all these different things that you're going to bend over and pick something up. Again, do it right. Do it well. Because, you know, how many times have you heard somebody like, oh, yeah, I bent over to pick this up and I hurt myself.
Threw my back out.
Yeah. And, you know, it can be simple. And it's you know, learning how to pick things up. And it doesn't, like I said, the top end doesn't need to be, I don't need everybody to deadlift 600 pounds. But I need you to deadlift, you know, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 pounds correctly and figure out how to pick things up in relation to your body, right? Like kinesthetic awareness, right? Like where an object is moving in relation to your body when I pick it up. Simple. Right? It's simple. And let's get in a good position to do it. Whether that be a regular deadlift, whether that be a sumo deadlift, whatever, like let's do it well, right? And I will throw deadlifts and hip hinges at people all the time.
It's a hip hinge.
Hip hinge is the start of a deadlift. Where, how do you not know what a hip? You just never heard me describe it as that. So, just like you would on a good morning, like in your warm ups, where I take my hips and I push them back.
Okay.
That's a hip hinge, right? Where it's just here, where I'm keeping my back flat and I'm hinging at the hips. So it's the start of that deadlift, right?
Gotcha.
So what else is that the start of? It's the start of a kettlebell swing, right? Where I set my weight to my heels and I hinge at my hips, right? Same idea. That hip hinge is crucial to life, right? And the hip extension where I come up tall, right? From a hip hinge. Like one of my favorite quotes, and I think it's a Greg Glassman quote from, you know, he's the creator of CrossFit, is all great things or all good things in life begin with violent hip extension. which is true. Like you think about like athletics, right? Let's keep it with athletics. It's true.
Yeah.
Everything is here, right? If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or SoundCloud, you can't see what I'm doing, but I was extending my hips. So basically like standing up tall, fast, right? Where I'm getting that.
A lot of sports.
It's hip extension.
Ready positions.
Yeah. I'm going from a ready position to a, you know, to go. Exactly. To a jump, a run, a sprint, you know, whatever it is.
Think about it. You know, a DB or football. Then your shortstop in baseball, and
everything.
Defense, basketball, you know,
everything.
Tennis, all of them.
Everything. Oh yeah. Even you think about a baseball swing, right? I've got bent knees. I'm coming through and I turn my hips through, but my hips get extended. Right? Anyways, there's, you know, that's where, okay, we talk squats, we talk deadlifts, that hip hinge and extension is key. And I think that for a lot of people, like a lot of people are, especially nowadays, are understanding like squats are great, right? Deadlifts, again, I think they are super beneficial, but they don't have to be the deadlifts everybody thinks of where it's got to be super heavy weight and I've got to bury myself. Because like a barbell deadlift, a lot of times for people is tough on positioning, right? So we talked about like a regular conventional deadlift. We talked about a sumo deadlift. Those are hard. Those take, if you've never done them, they take coaching for sure. Like, because you can fuck yourself up doing deadlifts wrong, right? And it takes a lot of patience, balance, just time. Now, you know, having that barbell out in front of you and trying to figure out your balance of where your pull is and not letting the bar get out away from you to where you're loading your back more or whatever, it's tough for a lot of people. So I've seen a lot of people too, you know, just talking about picking things up and setting them down safely is I've seen a lot of people have success that have had back issues deadlifting like with a trap bar. Right, the trap bar is one of those over there, right? So the trap bar is kind of, you stand in the middle of it and you're holding the handles, and it's kind of neutral grip, so your palms are facing you, is because I can center that weight on my body a little bit easier to where I'm not loading my back as much. So it's more of like a glute, leg, hip movement than it takes a lot off your back. So anyways, it's still, what is it? It's picking something up and setting it down, right? Which, again, I think is crucial. And I think people, neglect that movement. Like squats are kind of the in thing right now, especially with women, right? It's like chicks have figured out like, ooh, I can grow my butt if I squat, right?
Yeah.
Deadlifts, I think, are the one that I think people neglect a little bit. So, we're squatting, we're deadlifting, pressing and pulling, pushing and pulling something. Again, it's stuff you're going to do for the rest of your life, whether it's putting something up on a shelf, pushing something away from you, grabbing something and pulling it towards you. This is all big compound movements that need to be done, right? And again, you talk about like things that lack in programming a lot of times. You usually see a lot of, pushing movements and not so many pulling. So if you are looking at programming that like I do here at the gym or like with cast iron, is it may not be on the same day, but during that programming week, for every time you push, I'm going to have you pull something.
Got it. Okay.
To get balance in it. And I'm a first-hand example of like the bad things that can happen if you press too much. Okay, I pressed a ton for years, right? Like my back was fairly strong and I could pull weight, and rows and things like that, but I love to press. Well, for a long time, my shoulder position, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see my shoulder position was here. Like this is how I walked around all day. Like my shoulders were so far forward. It took a long time for me to balance that out and get my shoulders back. So that having that balance again in training is big, right? If you're going to push, you got to pull. Right, and a lot of people avoid the pull. So,
programmers,
yeah, people who are programming, especially if you're programming on your own, and especially if you're a guy.
So push. What are some examples of push?
Bench press, incline press, overhead press, anything where I'm pressing.
So you see that more than
way more. All right, so kind of talking about pressing and pulling, and like I said, people neglect it, especially guys. Right, guys want to bench press. Let's be real. I think some guys will push above their head. But most of it, they want to do this. They want to bench. They want to do like incline, decline, like all the different bench presses. What I do see, like you talk about like missing things, so they're missing the pull, but a lot of guys too, like their overhead press sucks, right? Like, and
you don't have that range.
Well, yeah, it's range of motion, number one, because they're just not doing it.
Yeah.
And number two, it's hard. Like pressing weight above your head, especially like strict press where I'm not incorporating my legs, right? So just like old school military press where I'm not getting a dip and drive from my legs is fucking hard. It's hard to do, and I don't get momentum, right? It's hard. Most guys will complain because, it's hard for me to get a bar all the way above my head. Well, yeah, because you don't do it, right? So that range of motion isn't there. That's one of the things like Jim Wendler, I love Jim Wendler, right? And he talks about is you want the fastest way to increase your bench press, overhead press more, right? He said, you're probably going to start out pretty light, but start with like 5 sets of 10 on overhead press and just throw that in on a different day than what you're benching. And you're going to be surprised at how quickly your bench press gets better and goes up. So yeah, overhead press, that's a key one. Doing the pulling movements. When I say pulling movements, that doesn't mean you have to do pull-ups. If you can do pull-ups, awesome. I think pull-ups are one of the most underrated movements out there because I feel like for body weight, they're great. They're going to get your back stronger, they're going to get your shoulders stronger, they're going to get your arms stronger. They work a ton of core strength. Pull-ups are hard, right? So people avoid doing them.
I was going to say, you think they just get put to the side on the back?
I do. And I think a lot of that too, like, if you're training at like commercial gyms, bigger gyms, is you see so many like for pulling movements, you see like the lat pull down and people sitting down because it's comfortable, it's easy. Lat pull downs, like if I'm strong on lat pull down, it doesn't mean I'm going to be good at pull ups. Yep, you pull it to the chest.
Okay.
Yeah, or like a lot of people will pull them behind your head. If you're doing lat pull downs, don't pull them behind your head. For most people, that's going to be a shitty position. But yeah, I think pull-ups are definitely a neglected movement. Now, if you can't do pull-ups because they are Pull-ups are fucking hard. You're pulling your body weight up over, so your chin's over a bar, right? Like, that's hard to do. Starting with inverted rows, body weight rows, ring rows, just anything where I'm pulling my body weight is going to get me stronger to get me to progress to doing those pull-ups. And from there, like working negatives, if you've never done negatives before, start slow, start easy, because those will blow you out. If you don't know what a negative is, it's basically where you jump or you stand on a box and you start with your chin above the bar and you take 2 or 3 seconds to lower yourself down to the bottom of a pull-up position. Then you jump back up and you get back over that bar. Like, that tears you up. Like, I see people do, honestly, like 3 sets of 2 or 3 reps and their lats and arms are just trashed for 2 or 3 days. Yeah. But they get you stronger, right? What that helped you do pull-ups. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those things, like, I'll tell people when they first start doing it, yeah, we're going to do 2 or 3 reps for 3 sets. And they're like, well, what good's that going to do? And then the next day they come in and they're like, dude, but I'm thrashed.
Yeah.
I'm thrashed from those. So, yeah, they're definitely hard. But, the pulling movements, like you said, if you can't do pull-ups, it's fine. Start with body weight rows. That's a real easy thing to do. The pulling movements also, like, I'm a big fan of barbell bent rows, or pendule rows, or
what's a pendule?
Pendule row is like a bent row, but you're starting with the weights on the ground, right? Okay. So it's usually done with like bumper plates, so it puts you like in the bottom of a deadlift position, and then I pull kind of the same type of pull I would on a bent over row, but each rep starts from the floor like that. Those are a good one. Those are good, especially for people who have a tendency, like in bent rows, to get that like momentum pull, where they're like throwing their hips into it and they're standing up taller as they pull. Yeah. So pulling movements, I think, especially for guys, are definitely neglected. I think that's one, like I said, every dude I know loves to bench press. We bench press here at the gym today. I think bench pressing is great, and I'm not saying anything against it. If you know me personally, you know how much I love to bench press. But I think that...
You're saying you got to get out there more.
Yeah, even it out, man. Even it out. Get that balance in. And then, I've talked a lot about lifting today, and I think that's, like I said, that's where everything needs to start. And then on top of that, you look at what you're training for. For most people, it's general physical preparedness, right? The GPP. They're looking to get fit. They're looking to, have some stamina, endurance, some strength, feel good. So that's where, start to incorporate like body weight movements, the gymnastics or body weight movements where you're using your own body weight, like the pull-ups, the push-ups, body weight squats, sit-ups, planks, anything where you're using your own body weight against you, I think is great. And then incorporating, your cardio, I think is huge, and I'm a fan of varying types of cardio. I think you should do some of the stuff you like, some of the stuff you don't like, for me, like personally, like I love to run, and that's the center of my cardio, but I do shit that I don't like to do. Like I absolutely hate getting on the bike or the rower, but I do it.
I was thinking of the rower when you said.
Yeah, and for me, like you want to see me just trashed.
The bike is even worse for me.
Yeah. Put me on the bike. Put me on the bike, and it's gonna trash me, but I do it. You know what I mean? Like, because I know I need to, and I think that's a lot of times, like especially when people program for themselves, they do the stuff that they like, which is fine. But put some of the stuff in there that you don't like, that you're not good at. Does that need to be the center of your training? No. But whether it's a way that you're not comfortable moving or a movement that just whoops your ass, like do it. Force yourself to do it. And like I said, it's kind of like I was saying, like with the squats, it's, yeah, you're going to get a physical benefit, but you're going to get the mental side of it too. Like when you're forcing yourself to do things that you don't want to do, it's just like there's days where you've come to the gym, Mike, and you've looked at the board and you're like, fuck, this is going to be so hard. This is going to kick my ass. But you nut up, you get the workout done, and then when you're done, like you feel good, and you're like, you're in a good place mentally,
yeah,
because you pushed yourself to do something that you normally wouldn't do, right? And I think for a lot of people, I think a lot of people just mentally aren't tough enough in that way, and it's one of those. It's the David Goggins, right? Like do something hard every day. And everything, and start your day that way. Like if you can, if you have that option, start your day hard. Like for me, like, that's why I love to work out in the mornings if I have that opportunity. Like today, like, I'll just crush myself. The rest of my day is going to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, mentally, physically, like, there's not however much weight I have on the bar crushing down on me. You know, it's like I'm in a good place, you know, and I think that pushing yourself to do some of the stuff that you don't like helps to build that. Right. And I don't think enough people do it. You know, they fall into what's comfortable.
Yeah. Well,
you know,
that's the beauty of working out here.
Right.
Not only is the thinking gone, but I'm going to run into things that aren't things that I feel like I'm good at.
Right.
Know? But that's the point.
Right. And that's the goal too. Like, you know, with how I program here, how I program for cast iron workouts is like, yeah, you know, and I'll use like Amber. Hi, Amber. Like, if you're watching this, I know there's been days where Amber's like, God, I don't want to do this, you know, and she's texted me, or I've gotten a message like, I don't want to do today's workout. But there's on those same ones, I know she does it.
Yeah.
Or she's texted me like, hey, I felt bad because I didn't do this, so I went back and did it. That's what makes you better. That's what makes you tougher. That's what puts you like mentally in a better place and physically in a better place. You know, is pushing yourself to do things that you think you didn't think you could do, or that were going to be too hard. That's huge, man. That's huge. And like I said, it doesn't need to be every single day where you're doing, oh my God, I freaking hate my workout today. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is do some of the stuff you don't like, some of the stuff that's going to challenge you, right? Don't avoid the stuff because it's hard.
Yeah. Don't dance around. And
yeah, for sure. And that's a lot of times too. Like when I've seen people that stop working out, or I'll use a gym as an example, right? And I've seen people, you know, come and go from my gym over 17 years. Let's talk about like just the group fitness side of things. A lot of times people stop working out because things get too hard, right? Like when people first start working out, what happens? Sunshine and rainbows, baby, because everything, you're getting stronger. It's just it's a fresh start.
Yeah, on that
I know. We've talked about this before. It's where, you know, you're 6 months in and you're not making PRs every time you lift, and things get tough, things get difficult. That's where I see people go, oh, I don't like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's hard now. It's hard now, and you're not getting the rewards, right? And you're not getting the pat on the ass from yourself in training that like your body's going, yay, look at me, I can deadlift 50 more pounds than what I did last time. It doesn't work that way, right? Like if you're doing that, you'd be deadlifting 2,000 pounds. Like it's when things get difficult, people quit, right? And that's where, you know, it's like, all right, who's tough?
Yeah.
Right. And that's where you will see like you, and I don't want to say grind through, because I think people use that term way too much. Oh, you got to grind through. But that's where, you know, you do have to put your head down, focus, and, you know, it's time to nut up and push a little bit, you know, and, you know, being able to do that, it's going to make you stronger physically and mentally, which is going to go a long way. So, you know, back to the programming side of things, do some of the stuff you like, do some of the stuff you don't like, you know, and like for me, like when I'm putting all this stuff together is I try and incorporate a little touch of all this stuff, right? With the emphasis being on strength, right? There's days where you're going to burpee. There's days where you're going to bike. There's days where you're going to run.
Push up.
Push-ups.
That's my thing, you know. I'm terrible overall, you know, and I've gotten better at them. But overall, when I see those, I'm just like, all right, I know I'm not going to do that well, because there's usually a ton that's in like some 5-round thing, and there's going to be 50 of them in each round. That's a ton for me. May as well be 1,000,000. But I'm like, you know what? Who cares? Let me just do as many as I can. I'm going to, until I fall. And I don't mean that like some tough guy thing. I just mean like, that's what I'm here for, you know? Let me do this. Maybe it happens in the 3rd round, and I'm only stringing 2 or 3 together. And there's times where I just laugh because I just fall down. You know, I did the other day with the pikes. You know, I was terrible at them.
Right.
You know, and I'm not bending those knees on purpose, you know, but that's the coaching, you know, comes in, and it's like, hey, you know, do it like this. It's like, all right. And then they're still looking like, or feeling, they're super hard for me. But hopefully the next time I do them, you know, hopefully that work that I did the other day makes me better.
It is. It's progression, right? It's progression. And that's like I say, and you're seeing it slowly, right? Is you're seeing that progress, and that's huge. That's huge for people, man. And
Because everything else on that workout the other day was no problem, really. That's what slowed me down. Was 11 pike push-ups,
yeah,
And it's the kettlebell swings. What else was it? Just squats, sit-ups. I'm just flying through those, unbroken.
yeah, it's all stuff that.
And I think other people.
It was stuff that was in your wheelhouse too, though.
Yeah, other people push-ups, no problem. They're just flying through them. Maybe every movement for them in that workout was fine for them, and it's just a matter of them pushing their pace. So then that's where their push comes through. But yeah, for me, my brick wall is the push-ups.
Yeah, and I think everybody and it's kind of like exactly what I was saying, right? Is everybody kind of has that. You have your strong points, you have your weak points, and for you right now, that's one of your weaker points, right? Why? Because you've always ran, right? You run, it's just like okay, so aside from running, what do you like? Deadlifts.
Yeah.
It's your lower half, right? I mean, for the most part, it's your lower half.
Same
you like to squat too, right? Yeah. What does Mike not like to do? Press.
Yeah, bench press. Yeah, that's not
right. It's just
never
one of
been
those
my
things.
strong point.
But it's exactly what I was saying is I still make you do it because it's going to get you stronger overall, right? And that's the thing is you will see that progress, and you are seeing that progress.
I would actually rather put something over my head
than bench press.
Yeah,
that makes me sad.
I would rather do a strict press with a barbell.
You're about to see one single tear roll down my cheek right now, dude. That just that one cut me deep.
I feel like I don't know. The weight's lower, but I feel like I'm better at it. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
bench
for
press.
Sure.
Oh my god, skinny arms. Like pushing.
Yeah, and it's a long way to push. You got some long arms, dude. It's a long way to push. Yeah. Get shorter arms, bro.
Just chop little boy.
Nah, and it's and it's exactly what I was saying. Do some of the stuff you like, do some of the stuff you don't like. You're gonna see that progress. You will. You'll see that progress big time. And there's a lot that can be done, man. Like just with the body weight stuff like that.
I should be doing push-ups at home every day.
So, and this is exactly what I was getting into.
I got to take it out. If I want to get better, yeah, I have my hour here, but I could be doing stuff at home. I know 100%. And it's not going to take that long. It's just if I want it, that's what I could do.
Yeah, for sure. And so I'm going to tie in a couple things. And number one, it reminds me of like the Herschel Walker workout, right? I've talked about Herschel Walker a bunch. Herschel Walker, if you guys don't know who Herschel Walker is, he was a former NFL running back, one of the best college running backs of all time, one of the best NFL running backs of all time. But Herschel Walker was known just for doing bodyweight workouts, like up until he got older, right? Like as a kid, he was picked on, whatever, and he wanted to get stronger. So a few things he did was like when he watched TV, he'd do push-ups and sit-ups is how he started, right? And then I think he started to incorporate like pull-ups and bodyweight squats as he got a little bit older. But like Herschel Walker is known for like doing thousands. I'm not saying hundreds, like thousands of push-ups and sit-ups a day. Like he would watch TV and he'd just start knocking out push-ups as commercials would come on. And I think that's how it started. And dude is jacked. Beyond jacked, and he got that way just by doing like simple stuff like that, right? So like that body weight, doing the body weight stuff. I know like for me, I'll tie that into like something that I did, and I can't remember when it was exactly, but I said, okay, I'm gonna do 300 push-ups a day for 30 days, not including whatever I'm doing in my workout that day. This is supplemental, right? This is on top of what I'm already doing. So once I was getting 30 days in, I'm like, no, I'm going to make this 100 days, right? So what is that, 30,000 push-ups over 100 days? It's a lot of push-ups. But during that time, there's days like where I was more sore than others, depending on what I was doing in training, whatever. But in those 100 days, I saw a huge change in my body. Now, strength-wise, I can knock out push-ups like they're nothing, right? And just bang push-ups out. But like physically, like through my core, like I was like, holy crap. Like I could see a huge change in my abs, like in my hips, in my shoulders. Dude, it was insane. I'm like, all I'm doing is push-ups. I know like for a lot of you going, yeah, you're doing 300 push-ups a day. That's a ton. For me, that's not a lot of push-ups because I wasn't doing them all at once. I would do 100 here, 100 there. And when I say 100, I'm not doing 100 in a row. I was usually knocking out sets of 20, maybe 25. Sometimes if I was feeling good, 30 or 40, right? And just adding in that little bit. And it's kind of like I was talking about like with Keith, right? And telling him like some stuff that he could do is like little tiny bouts of stuff throughout the day like that with body weight movements go a long way.
Yeah, over time it'll.
Oh my God. You know, it's the prison method. You know, we were talking about the prison method, right? Like those dudes, they may not have weights in jail. Why do they come out looking jacked? Because they're spending the day doing little things here and there. It's like, all right, I'm going to do one set every hour for 10 hours. One set of max push-ups. And do as many push-ups as I can at the top of the hour every hour. Now, people are like, well, that's only going to take you like a minute before you burn out or whatever it is. Like, what's a minute every hour going to do? And it's like, fools are jacked.
Yeah, try it.
yeah, try it and see what happens, right? And I think a lot of stuff like that, like especially for people first getting started, like I think is huge, man. Is, you know, like not saying you got to max out on push-ups but like starting with simple tasks. You know, like I've had people who have started cast iron workouts where they're like, man, these workouts look like a lot, right? And okay, well, if it is a lot, okay, we've got, how many warm-ups we have on the website? 10 or so? I tell people, okay, start with one of our warm-ups, right? Do the warm-up.
Yeah.
That's your goal for your first week. Do your warm-up, right? And that's probably going to whoop your ass, right? And then from there, okay, do the warm-up plus whatever the first thing is that we're doing that day. Or say we have 5 rounds of something. Do the warm-up plus 1 round. That's it, right? And that's an easy way to ease yourself into stuff, right? And slowly start to increase that load over time, right? And I know I'm getting a little bit off track on programming, but it's one of those things that, like, you know, you're programming when you're trying to figure it out, or you're getting into new programming. And that's what I do with people here at the gym. Like, you've seen it firsthand. I've done it with you. Is, all right, you're going to do the warm-up today. We're going to get in, and we have, like I said, 5 rounds. All right, you may do all 5 rounds, but I may cut your reps in half, right? And your time's probably going to fall right around the same as like everybody else because it's new and you're figuring stuff out. Or I'm going to go, all right, instead of 5 rounds, you're going to do 3, or you're going to do 2, or whatever.
You would cut me off from stuff because I'm not getting.
Oh yeah, where it starts to give you a negative return, right?
Yeah, but you had another term for it anyway. But yeah, you've cut me because you're like, all right, it's just not worth it at this point. Like, just chill. You're good. You know, you got it in. You know, no more push-ups.
Yeah, and it's
whatever it is.
It's you start to you're doing more harm than good, right? And a lot of times, like with stuff like that too, is, you know, when I'm coaching people at the gym here, and I can see you, is, you know, as soon as I know your form, like let's even just talk about body weight movements, like with your push-ups, and I know exactly what you're talking about. We're doing push-ups, and I can see your form start to break down in a push-up. What the hell's the point of having me just have you try and keep grinding through just to keep grinding through, when all we're doing is ingraining bad habit at that point, right? Yeah, I love intensity and I love to push, but if it's a shit show,
if the form's not there,
right? What's the point? What's the point, right? Like let's dial in that form and like live to lift another day and feel good, and you know. So I think that's something that, you know, like when people are first starting, like with any sort of programming, is, you know, being conscious of like what they're doing, what the intensity is, and the benefit they're getting from something, you know? So, yeah. What else, man? You got questions for me about programming? I know I've yapping a lot today.
No, man, we covered a lot.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, you know, programming definitely, like I said, it takes a long time to figure out. Like, you know, if you're doing it on your own, it's put some thought into it. You know, I kind of give you guys a lot of different things to think about, and hopefully it helps. You know, when you are programming, or you are, you know, because a lot of people will go out and buy books, or they'll, you know, pay for programming online. Like we do programming through, that's cast iron workouts. It's what it is, right? It's workout programming, you know, with, yeah, you're getting some demo videos and tutorials and things like that. But it's programming. Make sure whatever you are doing, like, or program you are following, makes sense, right? And it make sure that it is geared towards your needs, right? And because I see people a lot of times where they'll jump into programming, they're like, yeah, I started doing this programming, and all right, what is it? Well, it's this bodybuilder, and I'm following his program that he does, and it's like, you're not a bodybuilder, and you're kind of a beginner, but you're doing this super advanced thing. Like, let's be smart with what we're getting into. And is, do you want to be a 300-pound bodybuilder? You know, I'm just using that as an example. Like, let's think about what we're doing and where we're going, right? So, you know, make sure you know, at least if somebody else is doing your programming, like what the expected outcome is for what you're doing, right? And, you know, just be safe. Be smart, be safe. You know, I'm always one, and like Mike was saying, I'm always one that always thinks that you can never, especially when you're first starting, you can never err on the side of going too light or too easy on yourself. Live to lift another day, right? Like, you don't need to bury yourself your first day in, or, you know, when you're first starting out with new programming. Be smart. Be smart. You know, I think also, like, when you are starting new programs or new programming, you know, be honest with what you're feeling and what you're doing, right? I think a lot of people will just kind of put their head down and blindly follow. Like, be honest with what you're doing and how you're feeling, how you're recovering. You know, if you're not recovering well from a program, hey, let's talk about it, right? Let's figure out how you need to recover better. You know, a lot of times that's looking at something totally separate. It could be nutrition and sleep and stuff like that. But, you know, from the training side and the sets and reps and the movement side, like, hey, yeah, you know, I'll use like Olympic lifting or whatever. Like, if I'm snatching a ton more, now all of a sudden my shoulders hurt. Well, maybe I need to throttle that back a little bit. You know, like, just thinking the stuff through, evaluating constantly. And, yeah. You know, if you guys do have questions on programming, shoot them over. castironworkouts@gmail.com. You know, I answer any questions you guys got there. If you guys want to comment, on one of the platforms that we post this to, you know, you guys want to shoot me a direct message on Instagram or Facebook, you can do that too. Yeah. What else, Mikey? Follow us.
Yeah. Check the socials.
Yeah.
Find us. Follow. Write reviews, please.
Yeah, the reviews help big time. You know, help us get seen and noticed and heard, and that's pretty cool.
And 2 weeks for $2, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks for $2. Yeah, get on that, castironworkouts.com. You know, we got that special going right now. Your first 2 weeks only cost you $2 to check out the programming. If you don't like it, before that 2 weeks is up, you can cancel it. And hey, no hard feelings, right? You tried it, $2. Check us out though. Come see us. Like I said, you know, our goal is, you know, especially my goal is to help you guys get better, no matter how that is or however I can help. Whether you're a member of Cast Iron Workouts or not, whether you're a member at my gym or not, like, hey, I may not know you, but I may be able to give you one answer to one question that you have that may help you progress and get better. So shoot, man, shoot. You know, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, subscribe to YouTube, you know, subscribe, share it for sure. Subscribe to the Apple Podcast. That's a big one. Yeah, get us out there to the world. You know, like I said, you know, we like sharing information and trying to help people. So, yeah, like I said, if there's anything that we can do to help you guys, let us know. If not, whatever, keep listening.
Any trainers that might be watching this, what do you guys think of programming? What's your style? And thoughts on the subject?
Yeah, and you know, or just you guys that work out on your own, that do program for yourselves. You know, let us know. Shoot us a message. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Hopefully you guys, you know, we get that smoke. If you guys are in our area, get that smoke clearing up. We can all go out for a run and social distance style, of course. You know, but yeah, hopefully you guys are doing well. Hopefully we'll see you guys soon.